you ever seen that movie from Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing?
It doesn't sound familiar offhand.
You'll have to check it out sometime, because the whole riot in that situation, same that we're happening right now, it was in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Do the Right Thing, filmed by Spike Lee, was made and put out. And it was an interracial ordeal. You know, they had a pizza joint that was in the middle of the Bronx, you know, like, or New York, wherever it was shot at.
Mm-hmm.
And it was owned by, you know, these Italian cats.
Okay.
You know, and eventually one of the brothers, because all the black folks used to go into this joint, one of them questioned, you know, on the wall, the owner had all these Italian famous people on there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the cats that goes in there says, "Hey man, Sal," was his name, the owner's name, said, "You ain't got no brothers on the wall. Put some brothers on the wall." You know, he was like all emotional about it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Sal says, "When you get your own store, you can put your own people on the wall. This is my spot. I'll put whoever I want on the wall." So, you know, I planted the seed with that young man in that movie, man, and he was pissed. Went around protesting to everybody, talking about, "Let's boycott Sal's. We ain't buying no pizza."
Instead of saying, "I'm going to have my own store one day."
Yeah, he wanted to boycott him because he was mad. You know, and he turned around and tried to get people together, and people were like, "Nah, man, we ain't gonna boycott Sal's. We've been in that joint since we was babies. Sal's been here since jump. We're gonna keep on getting pizza. I'm gonna get pizza for breakfast, pizza for lunch, pizza for dinner. You're out your mind." So the whole movie was going along, right? And they, you know, with this ordeal, and they finally got to the point where he got a couple of people to bandwagon with him, you know, like just 2 people. And so, you know, there's a character in there, Radio Raheem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's carrying around the boom box. You know, he's got the big, huge, ginormous boom box back in those days. And he's got this big, huge boom box, and he's blasting. Well, Raheem's character kind of, you know, he's kind of the equalizer. You know, he preaches love and hate. You know, he's got these gold. You remember those gold?
Mm-hmm. Big nut.
Yeah, you know, the brothers used to do back in the day. You know, they had those big old. Matter of fact, I think I might want to give me a set of those. I don't know. This little group, if you would, went into Sal's to boycott him. You know, Radio Raheem had the music up high. Nobody could hear each other think in the pizza joint. Sal was yelling at him, "Turn that stuff down. Turn it down." Radio Raheem just turned it up louder. Rap music, you know, bumping the vibe was coming out, the music and everything. And the 2 other cats that was bandwagoning in there, they was yelling at Sal, you know, "Put some brothers on the wall. We're boycotting you," you know. So they went into this whole protest, right? Kind of similar to what's happening now. Radio Raheem puts his radio on the countertop. Still mean mugging him, looking at him, you know, like, "Oh yeah, Buster, what you gonna do?" You know, it's like kind of a showdown, old Western showdown between this business owner and Radio Raheem. And the business owner reached for a bat. He gave him one last warning. And he told him, he says, "Turn that music down." He didn't give him a threat what he was going to do. He just told him, "Turn that music down." And Radio Raheem just stood there and stood his ground. So what happened?
Bat went into the radio.
The bat went swinging, man. It went swinging. Radio got all busted up. Pow, 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 pow. Next thing you know, the radio, this big, huge, I'm talking huge radio. I think sometime in the movie he had to buy 20D batteries for these things. That's to let you know how big that was. If you know anything about ghetto blasters back in the day, that's a big radio. Huge 20D batteries. Had all the lights and everything on there, man. It was one to have back then. So the radio got busted up, and there was this moment, this psychological pause, where Radio Raheem was just, you could see him boiling. He was done. You know, they were fighting for a picture on the wall. You know, a picture. Next thing you know, the radio got broke. Now Radio Raheem jumped over the counter and grabbed the pizza store owner. Snatched him up. They was fighting. Radio Raheem picked him up. He's a big dude. Picked him up. Fighting. Now everybody in the restaurant fighting. Trying to fight the sons of the pizza owner. Kicking the snot out of the pizza owner himself. He was getting served. All over this picture. Eventually the cops get called. Right? Cops get called. They snatch Radio Raheem up. And you got these two officers. They've been strolling through the whole movie the entire time, mean mugging cats. Mugging them. Staring them down. Profiling them and stuff. You know, the characterization, what happens with law enforcement, right? Visual intimidation, you know, the body language, everything that goes along with that. But they were profiling specific individuals. And it was a black community. And that message was really strong. They never said it.
Right.
But you could see it. You understood it. If you could see the culture, you understand. You could see it. You pay attention to it in the movie. It was there. So, here are these two cops. The same ones that's been running around mugging people. Checking them out. Staring them down. Rattling their cages in the streets, right? Finally got Radio Raheem tussling with the pizza owner. Now remember, I said this dude was an Italian.
Right.
So, you know, he was fair-skinned. Just like they were, right? All the other customers and everything, they were all dark-skinned. So that message was really clear, too. So they immediately went to Radio Raheem. Now, Raheem could have been the store owner, right? But they just immediately went to him, snatched him up. Politely escorted the Italian store owner across the street. Now they got Radio Raheem. He's big. He's squirming, right? Because nobody likes to get snatched up. You already got the adrenaline running from fighting. And the police officers went to an immediate tactic where they took the baton across Raheem's neck. And one officer, because he's already aggressive, mean, mugging cats, I'm sure he's thinking inside his head, he's got him one now, right? He's not going to let him go. He's fighting back. Because he's tussing, squirming. He's not doing what I tell him to do. And he's got this baton across his neck, and the aggression gets so hard, they show a scene of Radio Raheem's feet coming off the ground. So now he's got him across the neck with this baton, right? And they got his feet up off the ground. Radio Raheem still, he's squirming. So the officer thinks he's still fighting back when he's only struggling for his life. Raheem's just moving in the sense of dying, right? The man's dying in his arms, and the police officer's thinking, he's struggling for me. He ain't listening. Has no control or no idea what's going on because the police officer's not in tune with what's going on. The officer may not have the intention to kill him, but the officer's training, because he's been programmed, is only doing what he's been programmed to do, and that was to detain the suspect.
Right.
He felt with his body, because Radio Raheem was up, his back was up against his body, he felt his body squirming and twitching. But it was only because he was dying in his arms. So the pressure came in stronger. Because he could feel him trying to get away. Stronger, stronger, stronger. Until the life of Raheem just left. Feet stopped twitching. The minute his feet stopped twitching, his body came still. The police officer said, "Oh, you're ready to comply." Let him go. Raheem flopped face down. The officer, still in his police mindset, went to detain him because he thought, okay, he's laying down now, not realizing
They just killed him.
that he just killed him, and it's on his face. It's on his face that he just killed him. They didn't realize because the other officer stepped in, said, "Get up," calling him boy. those type of terms. Get up! And he still laid there, man. The other officer poked him a couple times, says, get him in the car. And you could see the officer that had choked him was completely confused, had no idea that he killed him, because all he felt was a man struggling for his life. So, they throw him in the back. Now you got to remember, all the eyewitnesses are standing there watching this. Okay? They're watching this, the witnesses. Okay? And they're bringing all this in. They see the feet off the ground. They see the choking. They see, and then they're screaming it too. You're killing him. Just like today's ordeal. Innocent bystanders are watching these things, talking about they're killing him. You're killing him. But the officer's sitting there in that condition where he thinks he's still struggling, because he's actually struggling for his life. He's dying at the fate of the police officer's hands. You see? The police officer's training is only to be trained in a functionality to where he's functioning. The police officer's not alive. He's an incepted tool that he's functioning. It's just like firing a gun. You fire a gun, you pull the trigger, it has mechanics. Once you tell the mechanics what to do, it's only going to operate.
Right.
There is no thought process. There is no, should I discharge the bullet at this point because I've been told to pull a trigger. The metal has no heart, no feelings, no concern where that bullet's going to lay after it's discharged, has no concern where it's pointing at. The gun just fires. So therefore, when you train a police officer, he's mechanical. There's a few people out there that can differentiate between the feelings. And when I use a description of the gun, there is feeling in there. Someone's holding the gun at this point. Someone controls that. There's a thought process on the piece of metal.
Right.
We just pray that that individual happens to be thinking right that day. Because it's the luck of the draw. It's the whim that man. When you see officers like that going into a condition that they kill people, or they are not aware. Apparently, from this last little incident, the officer was on his neck for something like 9 minutes.
Right.
We're talking 9 minutes. A machine was sitting on that man's neck. Now you're telling me, in that 9 minutes, that there was no heart? He was cold. He had no feelings. He had no concern. All he felt, mechanically, all he felt was the twitch of the mechanics from him being told and trained to subdue the suspect. So, if we're playing Russian roulette, right, what's your chances of living with a mechanical police officer? Because that's what we're putting out on the street. We're putting a bullet in the chamber and just playing Russian roulette with it, and allowing the mechanics to do its job like we've trained it to do in society. That's why we have these incidents, because somebody finally pulled the trigger and somebody died at the innocence of mechanics. Yeah. You might have X amount of empty chambers, and those empty chambers could be easily the ones that think. The ones that had compassion. The ones that actually stopped to understand that I have this man subdued. He's in handcuffs. I need to take care of him now. Sir, do you need some water? Let me set you up. Are you bleeding anywhere? Are you hurt, sir? Can I help you in any sort of way? Look at here, man. Your shirt's crooked. I'm sorry, man. I had to detain you. I got some questioning to do. I felt like you were resisting me. So here we are. Can you help me help you understand why I had to detain you today, sir? Do you have some identification? Let me get you brushed off. Let me help you out. Regain his trust. Right? Could you imagine if a police officer arrested you on the gravel and you've been laying there on a hot day, and your face has been smudged into the gravel. Everybody knows. We've all played out in the street.
Mm-hmm.
We fell out on the gravel street. We know what gravel does to the body after you've been fell on it. It's in your skin. Either if it got embedded in there and you're bleeding from it, or it's stuck to you.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that. Could you imagine after that could have happened that day, that police officer set that man up and brushed him off? Could you imagine the compassion from the suspect, possible suspect, could have felt at that point in time? If he would have just took a second after he had been put in handcuffs, sat up, pushed up against that car steering wheel like he should had been, and brushed off. Could you imagine the care he would have felt in that situation? That human being, that black human being, would have felt, even though he had been apprehended for whatever reason he had been apprehended for, would have still felt like somebody cared. But he wasn't, right? It took him 9 minutes because the machine don't care. So we have these incidences that pan out like this in our society. And to go back to Radio Raheem, this is my favorite movie, by the way. I watch it a lot.
I could tell, and I guarantee I'm going to be watching it.
It's a slow driver at first, man. It's like one of those slow ones. You're kind of like, wait, what? What's going on here? But then it picks up. But you got to watch it a couple times because it has a very soft, unique way to introduce you to what Black Americans experience,
Mm-hmm.
Italians experience, Asians. There's all kinds of different directions in this movie, and it helps people click the knob to understand. Understand this information. It's really unique. People in my home watch it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of scenes in there that are adult, and I just kind of stand in front of the TV. But I let my kids see it so they can understand. They threw Raheem in the back of the car lifeless. No handcuffs. In this movie, he was completely lifeless.
Mm-hmm.
Just tossed in the back of the car like a dirty old rag. I remember watching this movie when I was a child, man. This thing came out 93, something. Still can't remember. Early 90s. I was young. I was like 18, 19. You know? The impact that it had on me then is just as tremendous as it is now watching that thing. And I can't commend Spike Lee even more for creating that movie for the culture, man. Because it really pitches an angle that we all can understand. And if somebody doesn't understand that angle, it completely makes sense to them after they get done watching it. It's just like, wow, really? And the pictures that I'm marrying together between, the Floyd incident,
Mm-hmm.
and this scenario in the movie, you guys are understanding that. Like, damn, that's pretty much similar, but it's a different act of violence.
Yeah.
But it's pretty similar, right? So, again, Raheem gets thrown in. He's lifeless. It shows a little picture of his face. He's flopped over in the back of this cheap nylon long one bucket seat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember those?
Mm-hmm.
I won't ever admit that I've been on one of those. Ever. But they slam the door. Hauls off Raheem. 2 police officers jogging with him to keep people away, and they driving off slow, and there goes Raheem into the sunset. That's the last you see of Raheem, right? This strong, cultured black man walking the streets, bumping his music, asked for a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he wanted. Once he was disrespected, disrespect kind of came back, right? It was just kind of reciprocated, because that's, when you're mechanical again, other minds became mechanical. He was playing the music, he was fitting into, a perception of, black men and women. He was becoming mechanical too, so he was walking around being this, he was asked to turn the music down, he wouldn't, because he was being mechanical. He was in a position, because just not the cops are going to become mechanical, doctors become mechanical, lawyers become mechanical. They become desensitized to, life, and they just become mechanical, man. And Raheem, it cost Raheem his life. Now, Spike Lee played in his own movie. You ever seen Spike Lee? You know what I'm talking about, Spike Lee?
I know who he is.
Yeah. Spike Lee's a character, man. And I really have enjoyed his work over the years. Spike Lee actually plays his own movie. He's actually the star guy in his own movie. It's pretty interesting. He makes a movie, but he's the main guy. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. And he's across the street at this point because they've all just witnessed Raheem pass. All the kids. This is in the borough, in the Bronx. The streets, the stoops, that old school, stuff that they got going on down there in New York. That old, brass tack type of style neighborhood. They're cutting open the fire hydrant, and they're, putting the open can in there and spitting the water out. The kids are all playing out in the street. Mm-hmm. We're in the streets. Spike walks across the street and he's sitting down on the curb, and he's just like, what just happened? Just witnessed Raheem die by the police. Now, today's day and age, we watch police kill our young black men and women. I can say that because that's what's happening. They're killing young black men and women. Are they killing other folks too? Yeah. But there's such a very unique, intricate bond that comes among blacks. If anybody has ever noticed, you can walk down the street and see two brothers head nod each other and not even know each other. Mm-hmm. We fist bump each other. Hey, man, how you doing? All right, man, how you doing? Right? Mm-hmm. It's a cultural bond that has existed ever since I've been a child. Since I've ever known. I don't do it to be disrespectful to other folks that are not my kind, but those folks are my kind. Mm-hmm. Now, if I know you, and if I see you in passing, you're going to get the same kind of head nod.
Right.
You're going to get the same kind of fist bump. You're going to get the same type of love, right? But that just, to us, it just comes normal and that's with anybody. You get the Hispanics amongst each other, they speak their language. Mm-hmm. And if you nod up their kind and you start speaking Spanish, guess what?
They're going to start talking.
You're in there.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do. So, Spike's sitting over there on this corner, and he's going through this thought process of just complete anger of what just the police that, just killed Radio Raheem. And you know whose fault it was? The store owner. Right? That's how he was thinking. Because if the store owner would have just put black folks on the wall, we wouldn't be at this point right now. If the store owner wouldn't have had broke the radio, we wouldn't have been fighting. See, the confusion of mechanics doesn't have, remember we go back to the mechanical part, it doesn't have the sense of rationale.
Right.
We can't rationalize, the cops killed him, but we do think about the cops killed him, but we think about what actually killed him. Mm-hmm. Where that actually started from, So, Spike picks up a trash can off the street, walks right through the crowd that's yelling, mad, crying, upset that Raheem is dead, and he throws this trash can straight through the window of the pizza joint. Why would Spike do that? Why are these kids today running up to stores and breaking the windows? I'll explain it to you. When the oppressor, the pizza owner, does not feel the request of the black man picture being put on the wall, Dr. Martin Luther King, violence will ensue. Any human being is not listened to or rationalized with will turn to violence. They will come to some erratic way to get their voice heard. Is it justifiable? No. Dr. Martin Luther King had two different takes on it. At first, he said, we got to do this with peace. We got to do this with, love and compassion. And that's what I speak about too. Because you get a lot further with people with love. Because once you step on the violence side, man, you're committed. Right. You're committed to a whole another ball of wax that can never be undone. Love, you can keep on loving. You can't love somebody the wrong way. You can give them a little bit of love. Nobody's going to complain about a little bit of love. But somebody will complain about a little bit of violence. Forever. Mm-hmm. Dr. Martin Luther King changed his views about, those type of things. And later on, that's where he said, when the oppressor does not listen, those will turn to violence. He didn't support it, but that's what he understood. Now, again, going to the violence part about it, I talked about the mechanics, right? You got the mechanics of this thing. It's just going to operate. Now, Denzel Washington's got a part, and I'm going to jump around here, so just hang with me. Denzel Washington had said in his earlier career, he was a young man, and he used this scenario, and I like this, and I'm using this movie in this just because, I like the references. They're pretty strong. When you have sheep that are corralled, right? They're in this corral and they're just doing their thing, sheep, the society of sheep. Anybody could be a sheep. Senators can be a sheep. Police officers can be a sheep, Mm-hmm. Hispanic people can be sheep because remember, they could all, once they find out you speak the language, they're all sheeping together. Black folks can be sheep too because once we see the culture, we're doing the sheep thing, right? We all fit in some sort of way of identifying with each other. Yeah. That's not a bad thing, but on some level, we all fall in that corral. That we find a corral to jump in, and here, this is my people. We're here, and so when the corral moves to the left, we're all going to the left. Mm-hmm. We're all doing it, So the trick to life is that you got to not be in that corral. You can still be a sheep. You just got to get out of there. You just can't be trapped in there, and you just don't follow what everybody else is doing because it's going to wind up getting you in trouble one day. Right. Now, the other side of it is the wolf. Denzel used to talk about the wolf. The wolf hunts the sheep. Comes to get the shepherd's sheep and all that kind of stuff, and that's always a problem. Do you get one day the sheep wakes up because the wolf has been hunting his brothers and sisters and everybody and killing them. And one day, this one sheep wakes up and says, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm tired of, getting my brothers and sisters getting ate. Right? Think about the wolf. The wolf, since he was young, since a pup, he's been taught how to hunt. Mm. That's all the wolf knows how to do is hunt. What does the sheep do? He grazes, right? Mm-hmm. That's all he does. He just grazes. Could you imagine a sheep one day getting woke up, trying to fight back? The sheep's going to fight back with everything he's got. Because now he's not belong to the sheep, to what the rest of the sheep are doing, just laying over and playing dead. Now he's awake. Mm-hmm. And he's running around like everything, throwing blades of grass at the wolf, seeing if that'll work. Because he don't know no better. He don't know how to defend himself. He doesn't know how to do wolf stuff, attack and protect and, that stuff. Mm-hmm. So he's going to do everything necessary. Are we going to be mad at the sheep? Mm-hmm. For doing everything necessary to survive the attack of the wolf? Or are we going to be mad at the wolf trying to get food for his pack? Where's the balance in that? Because you feel for the wolf because the wolf's got to hunt. You also feel for the sheep because the sheep got to survive. Right. It's such a hard balance. It's almost like trying to fit two opposites of a magnet together, forcing it together. It's never going to go together. They're always going to repel. They're always going to whatever. You could bound them down, whatever. They're just still going to resist it, no matter what. That's that atmosphere. That's what we fight in society. When the sheep finally gets woke up, he's going to, defend himself. What if, during that situation, what if we could teach the sheep, right? What if we could find the sheep before, they get attacked by the wolf and sit them down and say, hey, man, there might come a day. You might have to throw a couple of punches, right? And just kind of help him out. He may not listen. The sheep are hard-headed. They're stuck in their ways. They just want to systematically go through life, mechanical, right? But when that day comes for him to actually protect himself the right way, maybe not harm the wolf, maybe not completely run around and destroy stuff, robbing, pillaging, tearing stuff up, they can kind of compartmentalize their anger and at least defend themselves to a point that they could be safe, right? A lot of these young kids right now in society are woke. They might not have gone through, the experiences I had went through when I was a young man, or what my forefathers had went through, or even the slaves went through. They might not see that now. That's completely in the distance for them. That's not even a real thing for them anymore, because it's so far away. I say far away respectfully. Slavery, at least, is, a little bit of distance on us. These young black kids today, they don't know that. So now they're awake. They're awake in this atmosphere and not knowing how to defend themselves. They don't know how to direct this anger. They've been given these tools because there's tools all around. They've been shown this stuff and they just don't, know what to do. Society has programmed them, because we go back to the program, society has programmed them to culturally act a certain way. Wear baggy clothes, hip hop hat to the back, shirt, whatever. So now they fit the part. Now they got to act the part. The sheep, right? But when something like this, a satellite issue with the death happens, it sparks this anger. Back to the movie, it sparks this anger, and next thing you know, the sheep doesn't know how to defend himself. He thinks he's going to be next, right? So we're mad at the wolf. We're mad at the police officer, because technically he's got to do his job, right? Or we mad at the sheep for finally waking up and fighting back. There's the magnet again. So you go on the other side, the sheep, you teach them whatever the case may be, but you go over to the wolf. Do you allow the wolf just to kill just out of randomness? Does he just hoard and take whatever he needs? Or do you teach him to be humble and take what he should? Right? Because in that ideal view, what do we go after? Do we just segregate the blacks? Do we just go after parking tickets today, Sal? Do we do this? Do we do that? Find the intention of the wolf, and you have to put some pride to it. You can't just let it aimlessly, just randomly just kill whatever is coming by.
Right.
There's a harmony there. The wolf has to allow it to survive. The Indians taught us that a long time ago. We're just not out there to kill just to kill, because eventually there won't be no more for us to eat. The police officer's mentality kind of has to think the same thing. And I'm not trying to justify killing, but, we just can't be aimlessly out there killing folks. Because then eventually, like I said, there's not going to be enough for us to eat. We're not going to trust each other anymore. We're not going to trust the police. We're not going to trust them to come to our house when we need them. We're going to lose that scope. Unfortunately, I think we've lost it now. Because the wolf has been running around killing whoever the damn hell he feels like without being told that you can't just do that. I have taught you since a pup to kill. I've put you through the police academy. I've given you all these tools, right? And now you're just out there doing it. Nobody's stopping that. Nobody's saying, hey, you know what? You got to kind of chill out a little bit, you know? You need to stop doing that. You need to slow down. It's a lot more pride in it, you know? If you bring one to custody and we can trial him with a fair trial like the system's supposed to do. There's a lot more honor in that. Going fishing, catching you a big one and getting a picture with it. Taking the hook out of his mouth and letting him go. It's a story to tell someday. What kind of story you got when you came up and killed somebody? A story of a killer? You got a story of a killer at that point. That's not honorable. Spike Lee joint, man. You got to check that out. The movie pans out too. It kind of softens down after that incident. Spike was actually a pizza delivery dude at that pizza joint, and he was supposed to get paid the day that Sal's restaurant got burnt down. So now Spike ain't got a job no more. He was the one that threw the window through the trash can through the window. Spike goes back and asks Sal for his paycheck. He had the audacity to ask for it. I don't blame him. Shoot, he worked for the money, right? It's funny. But Sal was quick to correct him on the spot. Says, how much I pay you a week? He said, $200 a week. Sal said, I'm about to take your check for the damages that you caused with the window. But Spike wasn't no dummy. Spike turned around and said, you know what? You get insurance money, Sal. Pay me my money. Right? And they had this moment. It was a banter. You know? He was innocent. I mean, he was knowledgeable about not getting paid, and here's the store owner trying to gyp him of his money. You know? And so Sal tosses him $500. He just didn't toss it to him. He crumpled it up and threw it at him as hard as he could. You know, to let him know, here's your money, you freaking little stinking punk. You know, you just burned down my restaurant. And you know, the heart of Spike. He said, Al, you only pay me $250 a week. You gave me $500, and he threw him back $3. He says, you owe me $50. So even though Spike was angry, he was uncontrolled, he still had a heart, you know. And he tried to understand. Well, he did the good thing by saying, you know, I don't want all this money. Took the $300 and threw it back at Sal as hard as he could. So here's this banter, right? And so Spike had this moment where he actually asked Sal, says, hey, I got to go check on my kid and my girlfriend. Looks down at his watch and says, I'm still on the clock. Do you mind? It's a pretty powerful moment, you know, because he still respected his boss, despite the situation, right? I think he's finally came to his senses. That it wasn't the store's fault. This whole ordeal panned out, which we all know. It wasn't the store's fault. Yeah, they had an altercation in there, and you know, the people, the Samaritans that were utilizing the store didn't have what they wanted. It was the brothers on the wall, you know. But Spike came to a quick decision that the problem was the police. Not all police are bad, man. Not all of them are bad. There's a lot of bureaucratic blue tape, red tape, orange tape, purple tape, green tape, you name it. It just gets in the way. There's actually good cops that are in there. We got good cops on the police force. And they do say stuff. But what happens is, you know, you got Jimmy, the administrator's cousin, sister, so-and-so, that's about to marry Officer John. And they don't want to mess his career up over this issue. So it gets lost in the administration mix-up, and it just gets swept up underneath the rug. We get guys that are psychologically disturbed because the ones that actually care actually incept the garbage that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
They recover kids that are getting trafficked. They go to rape calls of unfortunate little girls that are crying. Imagine seeing that. Trauma, murders, suicides, spousal abuse, kids hurt, car crashes, murders. Day in, day out. 5 days a week. All year. For a career. I feel for a police officer, man. I really do, because they're human. What happens to that police officer that actually cares when he sees his first homicide? Probably throws up. Probably really sick when he sees his first child rape.
Probably haunts him for the rest of his life.
Right. He's got to take pictures, documentation, mark scars. He's going to see this little body that has been violated, and it's going to just rip his heart apart. But we all know what happens when you get a scar, right? When you get cut, it heals back up, and then you got a scar. That's what's happening to these police officers. They get ripped open emotionally, and then they get, the calluses of life, the calluses of this job. It just rips them open, calloused. Then when they got a little piece of care over here, rip, because they can't take that situation. Recalloused. Oh, here's another little soft part for, kids at the playground. All of a sudden somebody drives by and shoots them. Rip! New callus. Now they just got this heart that's just calloused.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the machine gets built. You take the heart out of the machine, right? The machine just becomes the machine. It just does its thing. So now you got this man with PTSD. He's been traumatized over every single situation that's been out there in the world. Okay? And his heart is just completely calloused over. Nobody witnesses it. How do you tell that? How could you tell that? How could you look at me and tell my heart's been calloused over?
Can't.
There's no way. Because they still smile at you. They still go home and take care of their spouses. Play with their kids. Father's Day. Make love to their spouses. Everything's still the same. But as soon as they get out into work, this callus just takes over. And the mechanics of it, they just start going through the motions. I've seen a few of those police officers. I've had some personal encounters too. I've actually called the police where I actually needed some help. I'm not the best judge of character, but I know people, and I know a heart. I've met some of those police officers, man. They're a cold brick slate. That's a tough place to be with our police officers, man.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk politically, we can't have these senators and, everybody throws these things out there about, politics and everything. We can't have these, 50-year senators. Guys that go in there when they're 18 and they retire when they're 75, a whole lifelong of making 666s a year. They can't stay in there that long. We got Freddie Flintstone trying to tell us about flying cars today. He's trying to put regulations on a flying car when he didn't even have a car. He was walking around on his bare feet. He's trying to tell us how to run things. It just doesn't make no sense. We talk about recycling these senators and giving them shorter terms. Me personally, I think that's what should happen with police officers too. I think police officers should have a shorter term in the job. I think there needs to be professional people that identify the hazards of the job and lessen the exposure to some of these human beings because they're human beings. We should just already know. We should have plan management already. We should plan already. If you know that it's snowing outside, you're going to put a coat on before you go out there. If it's winter, you know it's cold, so you're going to dress accordingly. You're just not going to walk outside and be like, oh, damn, it's cold out here? I had no idea. Winter's 6, 7, 8 months long. You're in the 3rd month of it, trying to go outside in shorts. You know damn well that's not going to work out good. Right? And so police officers, I think, are the same way. They don't, after a while, they just don't go through, they don't change, or they don't go through the motions. Or excuse me, they do go through the motions. They just day in, day out, over and over and over again. If we lessen their exposure to A, B, and C, you know, if a guy's been on patrol for X amount of time, and we know if we had a digital log to say, damn, if I was a police officer, which I was in the military, right? If they turn around and says, damn, Officer Akers, you've been exposed to a homicide, suicide, and you just watched domestic violence within 3 months. We got to pull you from the brick, man. Okay, what you got for me? We're going to put you in charge of PR. We're going to have you run around high-fiving kids and playing basketball at camps and letting the kids know how awesome they are. I think you do a good job at that, Akers. You know what happened to that police officer? It'd warm his heart back up. He would that callus that he had from those problems, he would regrow new care. Mm-hmm. He would regrow new sensitivities. Because the heart is always evolving, right? Mm-hmm. Just because we experience some pain, we become callous, doesn't mean we can't be brand new to love in the future. We might get callous, but something might new blossom out of that. You know, so we got to, what do? We put our police officers in charge of special units where they take care of kids, take care of, you know, fun stuff. And we can't pull off a whole force, but we got to maybe monitor and filter those things a little bit better so our police officers can kind of get recharged. You know? How about that? Recharge a police officer. You know how cool that would be? You know how cool that would be if we could identify the strengths. It's not even a strength thing. It's a number thing. Once the department knows that a police officer has been exposed to a certain level of experience, then we got to reshift his duties out of something that doesn't continually hammer him on that situation and can revitalize him.
Wow.
It's almost like a rehabilitation program in the correctional facilities in the jails. All jails try to claim that they want to bring these, you know, detainees in, and we want to rehabilitate them. We got to put them back out in the society. Now, why is it the same thinking that we can rehabilitate the criminal, but we can't rehabilitate the police officer? We just think the police officer comes with a set of different bricks of integrity? No, because the criminal has integrity too. Mm-hmm. He has street cred, he has street rules, he has street understanding. Some criminals do, some don't. Some would argue with me that a lot of them don't, and I think I would agree too that a lot of them don't, but they do have a code of ethic. You know? Some drug dealers probably won't even blink an eye putting drugs into a child's mouth, when others will. Some people that decide to, you know, mess with life and take people's life would never ever think about touching a child because they feel like it's wrong. Now, how are we going to take these criminals, these people that we think are against our normal morals, how are we going to take them in there and rehabilitate them? But we never blink an eye at rehabilitating a police officer. Because we put the responsibility on that poor police officer's shoulders. I don't feel bad for him. in any sense. It's their job. They should know better anyhow, right? Shouldn't they? Shouldn't any human being that's seen something catastrophic know, you know what? Oh, I need to recharge. No, because none of us do it. So how's a cop going to know how to do it? How's a cop going to know how to do it when nobody teaches him how to do it? How's a prison going to do it if nobody sets a blueprint to construct a rehabilitation program? Police departments don't have a rehabilitation program. They don't help their police officers get recharged. Yes, they have hard-stricken police officers. Yes, they have crimes that they got enforced. Yes, they have all these things, and we all respect that. We all do. But what if we rehabilitated Floyd's killer weeks before he killed Mr. Floyd? Would he have had the compassion? Would he have the thought process to say, you know what, I've been on his neck long enough? Would he have had a memory of the kids that he helped and thought, you know what, this is somebody's son? The officer that conducted this crime, from what I understand, he's had several in that police department. He's had complaint after complaint after complaint, and nothing has been done about it. They might have sent him to the shrink, or they might have counseled him and talked to him and says, oh, you doing all right there, pal? A review board reviewed whatever they got to review, and they had cameras to record it, and they watched the eye movement, they watched behavioral stuff, and they had a board and sat there and said, you know what, yeah, I've seen a few things, but he'll be all right. Send him back out there. What about this board? Is this board's integrity able to be upheld because they set this officer back out there and now he's killed another man? What about that board now? We question the board. Not only do we question the police officer, now we question that board. Who signed off the paperwork? We question that. Who put it in administration right that it was okay to put this police officer back out on the street? Who overseen that? If they knew that and had him in there and talking to him and had him in counsel and had no recharge system to bring this police officer out of these murky situations, they knew that, but they allowed him to stay in his mental state. They allowed his mental state to stay low, maybe slapped him on his wrist, told him, look, man, you get a little too aggressive. Telling the wolf. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Because we got to tell the wolf, hey man, you're not over here killing just to kill. You got to calm the F down. Slow it down, buddy. We're just not out here to do that. There's an honor to this. There's a pride to this. There's a thing called deadly force that you're supposed to abide by. Escalation of force, right? We all know escalation of force when it comes to law enforcement. If it from point A to point B. And if this escalation of force stops, if the threat stops, and you have to de-escalate and brush my man off, get him a glass of water, help a man out, because he's no longer a threat. We come up, we match the threat. Sometimes we step over a little bit to kind of control, get back to level, quickly de-escalate. It's got to be that smooth and that quick sometimes. Because once you put somebody in handcuffs, he becomes yours. So now the system, somebody that patrols the wolf, has told the wolf, man, you got to calm down. So the wolf, because he doesn't want to lose his job, right? He doesn't want to lose being the wolf. He doesn't want to lose being the alpha of the pack. He just looks at him right in their face and says, I'm good, man. Gives him the head nod, right? Because we associate by culture. Mm-hmm. Gives him the head nod. The other person sees the head nod and understands that he's good. He's okay. All right. I'm going to sign off on your paperwork and get you out of here, man. You'll be back out on the streets tomorrow morning. Got it? Officer says, yeah, man, I'm good. Now, what does he feel within his heart? That officer. Probably some resentment that he was even in the board in the first place. Probably embarrassed that he had to go to the shrink. Right? Some of the guys probably hackled at him in the locker room when he was getting ready and says, hey, man, you big dummy. You know how guys are in the locker room, right?
No.
They're going to tease him. They're going to joke around with him, you know. They're going to play around with him and all that kind of stuff, you know. So when that happens, he's going back out on the street with this fuel. Embarrassment, hate, everything else, man. And he's just, you know, upset. So what do? We recharge him, man. Everybody keeps asking, you know, what do we do? What do we do? We take him out of those programs. We put him into places where they can actually recharge. And, you know, this may sound kind of corny, but we recharge them and put them in situations where there's laughter, where they actually feel like genuinely that they're making a change for a particular situation. This neighborhood over here is, you know, needs a cleanup crew. Hey man, I think it'd be really neat for you to kind of, you know, take down the ensemble, pull the uniform off, maybe leave your vest on and go out there with the gun and maybe put on some work boots and help the neighborhood pick back up again. Talk to these people face to face, feel their pain, hear their suffer, coach them. Right? Give the officer a responsibility to actually feel like he's doing something, because that's why he signed up in the first place. He wants to make a change. Even he, I'm going to hit you with this. Even he, the police officer, gets lost. And he too gets hurt. From a little boy, he grew up wanting to be a cop, and he wanted to help people. He wanted to save people because he had this beautiful heart. And it got lost in this conglomerate of pain and suffering in society. And the poor man has been hardened, or gal, been hardened by this evil, destruct, immoral society that he has been dictated to manage. Eventually that dictation rubs off on him, doesn't it? Because you sure as hell can't fix a car without getting grease on your hands, can you? Officers get dirty. They make wrong decisions. They make poor choices. They can't make their mortgage payment. They make pleas and deals with drug dealers. They get a little dirty because it's work. They lose hope, man. They lose focus. Whose fault is it that's happening? I don't think I'm speaking of anything that's not true. And if I'm speaking of anything that's not true, I hope somebody can just walk up to my face and tell me I'm straight lying. But I've seen these things face to face. I know these things are happening. I see the stories unfold in society. I read. I watch. I pay attention. I'm my own sheep. Right? I'm my own sheep when it comes to this. I'm just over there nibbling on some grass. hiding in the back, wait, poke my head up like sheep do, I poke my head up, see if the wolf's coming. Oh, he's not coming today. Cool, I'm just going to give me some grass.
Your own flock.
I'm just going to be in my own little flock over here. Look around, hear a couple of sheep, and I don't hear no wolf coming today, so we cool, man. We're going to sit here and keep on eating this grass. It's good today. Shoot, no rain. I don't even think, none of you even went number 2 on this blade over here, so this is some fresh stuff right here.
Feeling pressure when you do. Well, the same thing that you're saying about police officers, though, really is much broader than just police officers. I mean, judges, for example.
Oh, man.
The stuff that they have to make the final decision on,
Right.
based off of what is put in front of them. Do you feel the same thing would apply to something like that? That they hear enough and hear enough and hear enough. Over
Absolutely.
And over.
Absolutely. They got a stamp in their hand. Next.
Yeah.
Next. Next. Guess what? That judge is sensible too. He sees the same black face coming through. Same black face coming through. Same black face coming through. Now he doesn't even hear the story. He sees a black face, psh, charge. Sees a face, psh, charge. You again, psh, charge. Loses the sensibility. Same thing. It could apply to anything, man. It could happen to your fast food restaurant cashier.
Oh yeah.
You take that same. It's like a dial. You know, like this term. You could take this dial that I just described. It's got a little line, and the volume. It's got 1 to 10, whatever. You can start on 1, being a police officer, 2, the judge, 3, attorney, 4, cashier. You can turn it to anybody in society, and that same thing will fit for every single one. You just take out the names, you put in the story. Cashier, same thing. Day in, day out, seeing the same stuff. Piss poor customers. People pissed off because their order's wrong. They come in angry, upset, mad. The cashier, with all his dear heart, just wants to go to work for that $9 an hour job. It's the coolest thing. This is my first job. This is my first gig, man. Mm-hmm. And they love it. They don't care if the trash stinks. They don't care if they got to clean up the restrooms. That's their first gig, man. So do you know they're happy through the roof about it? I know I was happy with my first gig. The reason why I use that analogy, because I was flipping burgers, man, my first joint. Loved it to death. I look back now and I was over the sweaty, hot, flat plate, flipping thousands and thousands and thousands of burgers. Cooking them back then, because they don't cook them no more. I was cooking them burgers with a little joint, a little corner joint, we made homemade burgers, sliders, and fry sauce, because Utah got the best fry sauce on the planet. Don't ever anybody argue with me about that, ever. And they, day in, day out, I'm flipping these burgers. Next thing you know, I'm not paying attention which ones are cooked through. I'm not paying attention to the ones that get cooked through because I'm cooking so many. Right? I'm cooking so many of these things, man. All of a sudden you get one that comes back. Hey, excuse me, my burger's not cooked through all the way. Damn, how'd that happen? Right? How that happened is because I became scorned, I was irritated by the heat from the flames on the flag grill. Back there hot, air conditioners don't work, the flume ain't sucking up the smoke fast enough. Now I'm not cooking, I'm just avoiding the irritants. Next thing you know, I'm not paying attention to the quality of my work. Happens with everything, man. Going back to the police officers, they get irritated by the minor things. I'm sure people bitching and complaining about the stupidest stuff. Could you imagine? Joe's tree is hanging over my yard, and I'm tired of looking at that tree in my yard. And police officer gets called to that.
We have a neighbor.
We have that.
How crazy is that? Could you imagine a police officer getting called over for that?
Yeah.
And the police officer with his little grin, looking at these folks complaining, talking about, what are you complaining about? You could take that dial and put it everywhere. Now the officer, He's flipping burgers. Same thing. You flip the scenario. He's flipping burgers day in, day out. He's dealing with all these little petty things. Next thing you know, he's letting a couple slide because he's not putting in good customer service and quality assistance to his detail. It's only humanistic, man, for people to do that. You could probably go back into your own life and see where, you know, I could admit, man, damn, I let those sliders slide. Literally. You know? I didn't pay attention to them. There's some things I did in the military that I overlooked. Because it was just cookie cutter and I was doing it day in and day out. I do it with my own kids too, man. You know, real talk. I let days go by before I might, you know, call up my kids, you know, my older kids and holler at them, you know. Next thing you know, 6 months went by. My kid will be like, damn, Dad, where you been at, man? I'm like, what? I just talked to you yesterday. No, you didn't. That was 6 months ago, Pops. I'm like, damn, well, let's get together. Well, we can't right now. I told you I was going to Italy, and now I'm in Italy. You were supposed to get with me 4 months ago. It's now been 6, Pops. And I've been like, damn. Let the slider slide, right?